What's going on? Welcome back to the Show Me Kayak Fishing Podcast. This week we've got the MOYAK Winter Series Stop number 3 winners. Last week we had the Stop number 4 winners on. This event actually got rescheduled, and I'm sure these 3 guys are pretty happy about it because they all had awesome days. Um, if you remember last week, we talked to Adam Denningman, who won Big Bass, Joe Hayes, who won second, and Corey Sims, who won first. We got 2 of them returning. Joe Hayes with another second place finish. Adam Denningman with the Big Bass 2 weeks in a row. And we did swap out the winner this time. We've got Rylan Sommer. So we'll go ahead and jump into it with Adam. You've won two Big Bass events, or one Big Bass twice in a row now. I have a feeling that you've done it a lot more than that, just kind of knowing how you like to fish. Your Big Bass of this event was 21 and a half inches, 12th place out of 21 people there. You had 3 fish for 47 and a quarter inches. And I don't know if you saw this, but the next biggest caught by anybody in the field was a 19-incher from Christian Blaine. So you kind of smacked that one out of the park. I'd like to hear the story on how you caught that guy.
Cool. Well, first of all, yeah, thanks for having me on again, Dane and Adrian. Thanks for having the podcast. And yeah, happy to come on and talk about it and hear about everyone else's event. I do fish for the big bass, that's for sure. When I got into fishing, it's usually, let's try and break the PB. So I fish for the big bass, but I also try to get a limit too. So I try to sprinkle in a little bit of both. And yeah, this event was so weird because we have some crazy Missouri weather, but this was going to be one of the craziest, and I could kind of see the way it was going down on the radar leading up, because I kept thinking, oh, we're gonna have a nice little warm Saturday, and then eventually I'm like, man, something ain't right about this. What's going on? Oh, all right, the high is gonna be at midnight or whatever. Yeah, I got down to the ramp the night before because I was a little worried about the storms, and yeah, it was weird having it be 80 the night before, 65 and storming the night of the tournament, and then when we're going to start it, it's going to be 40 degrees. So yeah, it threw a curveball. It was weird. I launched at the most public spot on the lake, notorious PB2, and I don't usually ever go there, but with it being a winter event and knowing that one of the biggest tournaments of the day was going out of Kaufman, I went ahead and launched there. I don't recommend people launching there for some of these bigger events. Most people kind of know to stay away from there, but yeah, I went out there, and man, there was shad everywhere in the back at the boat ramp, just flickering around. So again, it had me thinking that the fish were going to be sitting on top to start. And, I was even upset with myself that I left my buzzbait at home, because I kept telling myself, make sure you don't forget it. And well, I got out there and I started, and it was tough. I caught one fish in the very back. I was trying to work into some short pockets to try and identify where the fish were at as quick as possible. And I started in the back of one and didn't get bit at all. Worked my way in and out of it into the next one, and I caught one in the very back of that with a bladed jig. Really light 3-ounce bladed jig. I was just working it over the top of a branch and let it fall. And I caught like I caught my smallest fish doing that, like a 10-incher doing that. And that had me confused, because then that fish hit it on the fall, and I'm thinking, they're not on top. Like, I'm thinking they're going to be there in the middle or on the bottom. And I didn't get another bite for maybe an hour. And I was working my way through some of the more public points there and going in and out of those arms. And I got to a spot, and it was weird. If you watch the video, you would think that I had live scope on, because I put the trolling motor on and just go down like a 60-yard stretch of bank. And for whatever reason, I just stopped I stopped towards the point, because this specific point had a deep water edge on it. So I'm like, all right, this is something different. I was just trying to find something different because I was striking out again and I didn't like it. So I get to this deep edge point, and man, I launched one right up on it on the first cast. And yeah, this fish was every bit of a reaction bite. I get about 4 cranks into it. If I had to guess, I don't know how deep it was there, but it was definitely probably sitting in a couple of feet of water. But about 4 cranks into it, I feel my crankbait really work through some stuff. And if you fish long enough with these crankbaits and these chatterbaits, sometimes you're almost just ready for the bite. And what happened is my crankbait hit a couple of different, 2 or 3 different surfaces, and on the second or third one, it shot it up into the air, and I could feel it shoot it up in the air. And you can see on the video right when that happens, I get in the ready mode, and I'm waiting for a bite. That probably happens to me 12 times this day, and I set the hook on 11 trees. But this one, I was waiting for it. Sure enough, it was a fish, and I set the hook instantly. And I had 8-pound test, and I go, oh crap, it's a big one, because I already know I got this thing hooked on an 8-pound test. It's peel and drag right away, and I know from the last week that I got my rod set up. I had 2 8-pound rods for cranking, and this is my other one, and I got both of them set up the way they need to be. So I'm like, well, why is it pull and drag? Oh, it might be a big one. It's a big one, or it's foul hooked. I thought I had a big one. I thought I had like an 18-incher foul hook. That's what I thought I had. And then it gets a little closer, and I know it's a big one. And I tried to get into my net on the first try, and I had more slack than you ever won out. And it missed my net by like this much. And it dove under my kayak with that 8-pound test. And man, it could have easily broke my line. You can hear my line really stressing out. But I had so much line out. I don't know how my line stayed tight, because it could have lost tension. I had that thing single hooked in the corner of the mouth, but it was single hooked really good. Luckily, it didn't bend my crankbait hook out, and my line withstood the dive. And yeah, I got that thing in the net and knew right away it was a hog. For how fat it was, I thought I had like an 8 or 9 pounder, to be honest. And then I got it out of the net and held it up, and it looked really short because it was so fat. But yeah, it was an incredible bass, incredible fish. It happened to me twice in a row on crankbaits, on main lake points, finding those big ones. And I tried to do that pattern all day long and couldn't make it work. And I ended up switching lakes, or may as well switch lakes. I drove an hour up to another arm I like to fish, and I caught one more there, but it wasn't anything like what I was hoping it was. I had a secondary point there that I had fished the Saturday before, and I caught 2 keeper Kentuckys and a 20-inch bass in about 15 minutes on it. So I was really hoping that I was going to go there with a 7-pounder and load into some good fish on that secondary. But I asked some of my buddies where they caught their fish, and they said, in the middle on like secondaries and stuff. Well, I didn't sniff a bite on. I caught 2 in the very back and 1 on the point. So I had nothing in the middle. That was a weird day of only catching them on one extreme or the other. Caught 3 fish on the day on 3 different baits. 2 of them were just different crankbaits getting reaction bites. One of them was in 6 inches of water in the end of a little pocket, maybe setting up for some spawning. But yeah, no, it was an awesome day. There was several bass boats around me in the middle, live scoping some pockets, and man, they got on points quicker than you've ever seen when they saw me holding that 7-pounder up. I didn't know they were around me at first. I started celebrating, and then you kind of feel bad sometimes, because like, man, these guys would love this fish. I know that. And yeah, it was cool, fun day. It was brutal out there, but yeah, that'll probably never happen again. Back to back big basses, especially in a club like MOYAK, where you got a lot of serious competitors out there going for it.
Well, that's awesome, man. What did you? I know I read the Facebook post, but what did that thing weigh? You had your scale this time.
Yeah, it weighed 727. So I've had like 8 people reach out to me. Like, there's a lot of people that have reached out to me saying that I should fish the big bass bashes at Lake of the Ozarks well before this happened. For some reason, me and my buddies kind of joke about it, but I don't know why. That lake and me get along really well. I never started fishing it really until I got my kayak. So I've been fishing it for about 3 years, and I've caught. That was the last arm that I hadn't had a 20-incher, and I've caught multiple 20-inchers in the Gravois and the Osage and the Niagara, and then now I got the biggest one there in the Glaze. So yeah, I would not be afraid. Anyone listening, I wouldn't be afraid of any arms. You just got to find the hot area and the hot bite and the hot thing to focus in on. And that's the beauty about that lake is it's like 5 lakes, combined. It's really special. So yeah, it was really awesome that it went so well. That last one, everything went wrong, and on this one, I caught it. I got my hooks out of the net pretty quick. I weighed it. I got 2 rounds of pictures and saw that it was good to go, and did a release video, and she swam right off. And then I got right after it again because I was hoping again that maybe I would run into. Everyone talks about these piles of big ones, and not another bite on that area. And yeah, I'll have the video out eventually, but this is a pretty well-known area on PB2 where quite a few people have caught some good ones. And, at this point, it's probably fished by 20 boats a day. So that's why I think it was really just all about getting that reaction and, putting that thing right in that fish's face. I mean, that fish was probably suspended, and I probably rose that thing right up into her face, but she didn't have much of a choice but to eat it or get out of the way.
That's awesome. Did I hear it right that you got to practice like the week before or 2 weeks before something?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. And that, for whatever reason, that's how the practice has always worked out the best for me for events, when I go the week before and I can do something. And I ended up having success in the opposite end of the lake of where I had success in practice, but just going there and catching a couple of fish last Saturday gave me way more confidence than I would have normally had. And for whatever reason, when I go the day before, I usually don't catch much, but when I go the week before and catch something, it usually works out well. So I had a little bit of optimism going into this one, even though I didn't catch a limit, it was still a good one.
Well, good. You said you never dreamed that 2 in a row could happen, but I mean, that's pretty awesome getting 2 in a row big bass like that. I know we spoke.
They were both blowouts too, like you said. I think the second biggest at Pommy was like 18 or 19 as well. And so yeah, those big fat females can be hard to find this time of year.
Absolutely. Is there anything that you wish that you did different throughout the day? I mean, you went and caught a giant again, but
yeah,
just something quicker or?
No, not really. To be honest, my game plan was pretty good, and I don't really have a clue. I'm really curious to hear how these other guys caught it. I'm super curious to hear if Joe just had the same game plan, because it's when you take second, it's real easy to go out and just do the same thing. So I've been telling my buddies I can't wait to find out how Joe caught him on the podcast, because very easily could have been the same game plan, and I tried a lot of that same game plan too, and I executed my plan to that day to how I wanted to. I wanted to start in PB2 area, and I wanted to probably move after that if I didn't feel like I had something there. And even catching a 7-pounder, I was going back to these points and going to some of these areas where I've been able to catch them before. And just by the end of the day, I felt like I was just beating a dead horse, and I really felt like the fish had probably started out today a little closer and had probably pulled off. That was a weird day. Fish can change throughout the day, and that day went from 80 to 65 to 40, and so that there was probably a lot going on beneath the surface of the water that day, if I had to guess.
So last week you kind of spoke about it, how you're making a real effort to and if you don't want to talk about this, we can skip it definitely, but you've been making a real effort to like maintain a positive attitude whenever you're on the water. And you kind of touched on that last week. It appears to the outside that it's working. Cashing 2 checks in a row like this, coming into the Elite Series season, really probably with some confidence if I was you. Do you think that positive mindset is a factor in this success that you're seeing now, or?
Yeah, it could be. Well, you're definitely going to do better in life with a positive mindset and attitude. Yeah, it's just so easy for everything to go wrong out there, even when things are going right. So I would definitely think that if you keep a positive mindset and attitude in the long run, you're going to have a lot better of a season than dragging your head through the mud on it and everything. And I know I learned some stuff out there that day, and off the top of my head, I probably can't really think of it. But as long as I'm learning, the when I get real negative is if I go home from an event and just feel like, well, I didn't catch anything. I don't even think I learned anything. So as long as I'm learning out there, I'm usually pretty happy. So yeah, and it's easy to stay in that positive mindset when you're catching big ones. So I'll be curious to see what happens when we get into some of these real serious events right off the bat and things start going south. How I handle it and how it goes. Hopefully, it's not the case, but trying to be prepared.
Absolutely. I mean, we all know that at some point it's going to go south. It does every time, but you're right. Being prepared is the way to go. So that's awesome, man. Is there anything else you want to say right now, or till we come back to you later?
No, I think I covered most of it. Just looking forward to seeing how these guys come.
Awesome. Well, I got one more question. Was it the same crankbait?
Uh, no, but it was pretty much the same crankbait. Um, this one was one that bounces off the bottom, and the other one I caught that up in the column there, and both of them can bounce off the bottom. But yeah, it may as well have been the same crankbait, but no, it was not the exact identical crankbait. But both of them were caught on the St. Croix Glass Red Legend rod, and they were both caught on 8-pound tests, which is terrifying because I told my buddies I'll never put 8-pound test on, and or never put anything less than 15. I've had some fish break me off on 12 and 10, and I tried to do it this winter because I wanted to keep my lures deep. And as I've done a little bit more research since then, I've started to realize, you need to make a little bit longer of a cast if you want to get deeper and maybe reel it in a little bit faster. And I was kind of going the wrong way about it with some of my things. So it worked out for me. I put 8-pound on two rods this winter, and I can't wait to take them off because I'm terrified throwing that kind of stuff. I mean, just the sound you can even hear on the video of the thing stretching. I mean, I broke this crankbait off about 30 minutes later. I got it hung up shallow in about this much water, and I just tried to stick my hand down, and I couldn't get to the bait, so I tried to pull the line, and it broke off, and then I had to go way in there and grab it, and I'm like, yeah, how did I just catch a 7-pounder doing that?
What brand of line were you throwing?
I was throwing a tri-line. Tri-line fluorocarbon. I do love their. That's probably I've thrown them for pretty much everything. 15-pound tri-line fluoro. But this year I bought a big 1,000-yard spool of Seeger Abrazex. I just wanted to try it out. But there's a good chance I will go back to tri-line after this year. I'm always fishing around wood and stuff, and it handles it so well. It does twist up. It's a pretty thick line. It can get annoying sometimes, but yeah, I've enjoyed that line for I'm always in some muddy, gross stuff, so it's good for my style of fishing.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. Congrats on that, and we'll come back here at the end and get your thoughts on something else here. Moving on to second place, Joe Hayes, another repeat from last week. This time he caught 80 1/4 inches. On Tourney X, you culled 3 times. I'm guessing you probably caught more than that. And you edged out third place, which was Micah Funderburg by 1 3/4. So why don't you tell us how your day was, Joe?
Yeah, I did not look at boat tournaments beforehand, so I ended up at Kaufman with quite a few boats and got there a little later, so that was a little rough start to the day because I had to navigate through all those guys. But no, I pretty much came out with the same basic mindset that I did for Pommy with most of the same baits, but man, that wind and that lake, it was pumping into that cove right where Kaufman is, and it took my strategy most of the time is cover as much water as possible, and it took maybe 45 minutes where I realized that wasn't going to be the case because I got maybe half-mile down past a bunch of boat docks and started fishing what I wanted to fish, and it was just pandemonium. I couldn't sit still. Never got comfortable. So, I mean, I caught probably 3 on the way there on a chatterbait again, just randomly throwing it on the ends of docks that are normally 20 foot of water that were probably more like 8 to 12 because it's so low right now. And finally, I got out to kind of open water and again started thinking I was going to be able to do what I wanted to do. And I caught one fish of 15, and it probably took me 15 minutes to get the picture of it because I couldn't. I had nowhere to get away from the wind. Nowhere. There was chop coming over the side of my boat. And I just got a compass, pretty basic rig. It's fine. It handles great, but it was coming over the sides. It was picking me up, slamming me down. So I went ahead and turned around, headed back, and then for the rest of the day, just tried to go in and out of docks and skipping fronts, backs, side to side, and basically putting anything anywhere I could that, I mean, I thought going into the day that they might be relating underneath docks because of how heavy a rain we got overnight, but that wasn't really my plan. And it didn't take long before it started working, so I just kind of stuck with it the rest of the day.
If you were guessing, how many fish do you think you caught total?
Not as many as Pommy, but I think the smallest fish I caught was probably 14. I think I maybe caught probably 12 fish ish, maybe one more, maybe one less.
And with you said like a 14-inch minimum, that ain't too bad there. Nothing to complain about.
Right, I say the quality was great the whole day, and early on when that wind was still going absolutely wild, they were smashing everything. It was the bites as the day went on and the day got longer and the winds got a little softer here and there. The bites started getting a little lighter, a little tougher to detect. But yeah, early on they were chewing. Like as rough as it definitely made the fishing better, I bet.
Coming off of a second place finish in the last event, did you have a lot of confidence rolling into this one?
Yes and no. I mean, it was another situation where we were going into it. I wasn't sure if I was coming down with some buddies or not. I had one my teammate Easter, he was considering going, and then the weather, I think he wasn't that considered. Just kind of bailed, and I'm like, that's fine. I'm still going to go because the Ozarks is, as much as it's not super close to me, it's one I will go to in the morning and drive back home. 3 hours either way or whatever. But as we got closer and all them storms started rolling in, I'm like, man, I don't want to be driving down there in the storm. So last minute decision, decided to bring the family with me, grabbed a little Airbnb somewhere and made a little family trip out of it and came down the day before. But yeah, once I got out there and it was so rough, I was not that confident just because I wasn't able to do what I wanted to do. But once I started picking them off here and there, doing what I usually do at the Ozarks, which is dock fishing, the confidence kind of grew back pretty quickly.
Absolutely. At what point in the day did you realize that you might be about to do it again or maybe improve on last time?
I don't really know because honestly, it's funny. Even though I was catching fish early and somewhat often, I was just so pissed because I couldn't do what I wanted to do, and I just didn't really feel safe a lot of the day. It was anytime I was not paying attention to the water, something, I'm all over the place. So, at one point, I guess it was a little afternoon, I stopped and turned pretty much everything I had in, took a quick peek at the leaderboard, realized I was in a pretty good spot, but I was at that point considering coming off the water just because I felt like I was so limited. I was only fishing a certain amount of docks and a couple different cuts. I didn't want to make too many dicey runs anywhere just because wasn't having a good time. Other than, like I said, I joked with the buddies. It's like, man, this is second place. When it's all said and done, it's a great day, but I did not enjoy almost anything out there. So yeah, once I kind of saw where I was sitting and had in a pretty good spot, and most of the leaders were, I know Rylan put up his numbers pretty early, so I didn't really think I had a chance to get there, but I noticed everybody after that was still relatively reachable. So I just put my head down, went back out. Like I said, I went through a decent little lull in the day, skipping docks, and eventually, I don't know, one of our new sponsors, that Strike Force Fish Attractant, I had planned on bringing it to Vami because I hadn't used anything yet, and I'd heard good things, but didn't really know much about it. Well, coincidence or not, I put some on and immediately caught 2 fish right away. After I decided to come back out, I'm like, well, maybe this stuff's the real deal. And unfortunately, I lost a few at doing the same thing. But yeah, I just nose down, grind, and caught another few upgrades here and there, and just made my peace with it. Got off the water a little bit early just because I wanted to beat the boats back to the ramp. Didn't want to have to deal with all those guys again. They all had jokes in the morning. Hey, it's no wake zone, buddy. Slow it down. All right, guys. Real funny. But no, it was fun. Like I said, I didn't enjoy it while it was happening, but looking back, it's always a good day.
Absolutely. Whenever you said early afternoon, whenever you got to submit those fish, me and Adrian spoke around that time, and Adam had his great big one by then, and we saw you climb, and we're like, man, how cool would it be to have some repeat guys on, you know? And I mean, seeing a 20, what was it, a 21.5, we knew pretty well that Adam was probably going to be back, and we were rooting for you as well, Joe, and
Nice.
Corey as well. No offense to you, Rylan. But we saw you had a pretty good lead by that point, and so we got to have you. Joe, you've kind of finished off this winter series with some consistency here. Are you going into the Elite Series with a lot of confidence now, or how does that affect you?
It's hard to say because, like I said, I've been doing this since 2019, and consistency is one thing I've always been fairly decent at. And last year, I kind of took the year off from the Elite Series just because the year before, again, we got a pretty good group we travel with, and it got to the point where I had some bad habits. I was getting off the water early just to go back and start barbecuing and drinking, and it's like, why am I putting my money towards all these tournaments if I'm not going to give it my all? So I took a kind of last year to reset. And this year, I'm going to go hard with my partner, Eric Easter, old slapping the bass. We're going to come after those team belts, but I'll probably start out fishing. I'm obviously going in with confidence just because, but I'll probably fish the first couple elites, see how it goes. If they go all right, I'll try to make a push. But if not, like I said, I got to get the fun back into it. Make sure I'm not being dumb and wasting my money.
Absolutely. Is there a change mentally with your gear, with something that you made over the winter that you see is like leading to a part of this kind of surge? And I was looking at your Tourney X profile. You have been really consistent, but this is like a consistency at the top of the pack now. Is there a change that you think contributed to that, or not really?
Again, like with last year being a little bit of a reset and still kind of going through that, just basically a whole mindset change. There's so many years where I would try to fish the way I want to fish instead of letting the fish tell me what to fish. I'm a big topwater guy. I'm a big shallow water guy. So if it didn't go my way the first couple hours of a Sunday or summer morning or something, I'd just be, all right, guess I'm just going to have a terrible day. So really, I mean, not necessarily not a whole lot of gear change, but just more sticking with a gut. And if the gut isn't working, or don't be afraid to go do stuff you don't want to do, but you should do. Yeah, I mean, just a mindset.
Absolutely. That's awesome. You'll be at Lake of the Ozarks, I'm sure, all three of you. Yeah, for the Elite Series there. But that's awesome. We'll definitely be rooting for you there. And same thing with Adam, Joe. We'll circle back to you later unless you've got something else you need to say now.
All good here, buddy.
All righty. Now our winner, first place, Rylan Sommer. Is it Sommer or Sommer?
Summer.
Summer?
Just like
Okay.
season summer. Yep.
All righty. First place, 85 inches. Cold 4 times on Tourney X, but same with Joe. I'm pretty confident that you probably caught more than that. Looking at your Tourney X profile, I see that you've got 21 total events and you've got 7 top 10s, a 33% chance of being, not chance, but 33% percentage. I don't know how to say this, but in the top 10, which is pretty awesome. And I saw that in 2024 you fished some Jackson County events, which me and Adrian also fished, and I didn't realize that you were there, but I saw that. I thought that was pretty cool. So
I think Adrian and I met at one of those events, and his brother was competing that time too. And we were all there. We all met at the same time. So, yep.
Yeah.
that's why I was asking you before we started where you're from, because seeing that you came all the way up there. But why don't you tell us about your day?
Man, it started off rough. Just like Adam and Joe said, with the weather coming in the night before, I kind of looked at it right before I went to bed, and it was clearing off. So I was like, okay, I'm good to go in the morning. But I actually had a buddy come over the night before, and I didn't get to bed till 11. And so I was running on 3.5 hours of sleep. And I was like, man, I really don't want to go now. But it's like, well, I'm up. Let's go do this thing. And so, yeah, I get there and get loaded up and get on the water. And shortly after line's in, I end up losing a rod to the lake. Brand new rod and reel into the lake, got caught under. Yeah. So it was like some words were said and took a minute to decompose. Then right after that, I catch my first 17.25-inch fish. So I'm like, well, do I be happy or sad right now? And so I stayed around that spot, caught another one. I was like, well, okay, we're kind of on to something. So I think I caught my first 4 in the same spot. And I was like, okay, yeah, we're kind of on to something. So I completely forgot about the rod being in the lake. I was like, and it just kind of day went on and looked back. And I was like, oh, my rod's still gone. And then so it was a rough day to start with, but it definitely picked up, and I did get the rod and reel back somehow. Went back to where I lost it. Next thing you know, I seen it sticking out of the water. So I'm assuming the weight of the rod was down at the bottom, and just enough wind and current was pushing the rod tip up to where it was sticking straight up and down out of the water. So I just picked it up straight out, and I was like, well, that'll never happen again.
That's awesome. How did you have a lot of confidence coming into this event? Is this a lake that you're pretty comfortable with?
No, not at all. I got out the weekend before to do a little practicing, went to 2 different areas. I got out on Saturday and Sunday. Sunday, I had better luck. I was like, okay, the conditions are going to be somewhat similar to what Sunday was, to what tournament day was going to be like. So I kind of run this pattern I found on Sunday. And I mean, that's what it was running a crankbait on some windblown points. And that's what it was for me. So yeah, there was a little bit of confidence, but at the same time, just like Adam and Joe said, that weather could have changed everything. And really, when I got there, started fishing, it didn't change much. The water temps were warmer for me, and so I think that triggered them a little more. And so as I started catching them, my confidence started to go up, and kind of realized I had something going.
Well, that's awesome. We kind of looked early on, like I said earlier, and we saw that you were in the lead from pretty early on in the day. It seemed like did the bite stay strong for you all day, or did it die off? Or
so, like I said, I caught my first 4, all in the same spot. So I was like, okay, well, this is kind of dead now. So I'm going to go make a run somewhere else. And when I realized I caught multiple in the same spot, I looked at my graph, kind of see where I was fishing. And I was like, well, I'm going to go run this pattern somewhere else. And then it started to click. Okay, so this is what I need to be fishing. So the bite was there, kind of off and on, but I would reload that spot that I caught off my first 4. And that's where all the 17-inchers came, in the same spot. And but yeah, even on down parts of the lake that I was at, I was still finding that same pattern. And, I probably caught 10 or 11 bass, lost a decent one. Don't know if it would have done any good, but it was good. Just one of those deals. I threw the crankbait, a couple cranks, and I thought it was a rock. And it just hit, and I wasn't ready for it. And just popped right off after I realized it was hooked. But everywhere else was white bass. So probably caught 10 of those, and I kind of got in a little mood of catching white bass. And I was like, these are biting. So let's catch a couple of these. And because that's kind of what I found was, if there was white bass around, the bass were there. So I would catch a couple of them, kind of weed them out. And, if I caught a bass, it'd be a small one. But I was like, okay, well, I'm still doing the right thing. And so it was just a matter of circling around my spots, and it just paid off for me.
That's pretty hilarious, going and winning the tournament, and it wasn't no offense, Joe, but it wasn't that awful close, and you were playing around with white bass throughout the day. Was there a point that you knew that you had enough? Like whenever you hit that 85-inch mark, did you know that you were there, you done it?
So yes and no, because you just never know with these guys, and even in the kayak, in these bass tournaments, you really just never know. Somebody's got a sneaky bag, and you don't want to get your hopes up. But I have people text me like, dude, you got this. Like, man, I don't know. Like, you just never know. And so I didn't want my hopes up or anything like that. But once I hit that high 70s and 80s mark, because last year I struggled getting above 70s. Like, it was mid 60s. So like when I got to 60 on Saturday, I was like, okay, we're doing something for myself. Like, this is an improvement for me. I don't really fish in the winter. So it was more about, okay, we're doing good for myself. And then I got to 70, and then it was 80. And then I was like, okay, well, 81's my highest. So let's break that. And that's what it was. I was just go big or go home type deal. And, and I called that the last coal I got, that last 17-incher I got, I kind of think I had it, but I wasn't so sure. And I didn't want to be like, oh, I got it, we're good to go. But you just never know with these guys. And that's what makes it fun and interesting is, somebody might drop a 21-incher right on you at the end of the day. You really never know.
Absolutely. A funny story about that, quick digression. My greatest tournament day ever, I was getting congratulation texts, or greatest tournament bag ever. I was getting congratulations texts at 9:30, 10 o'clock in the morning. Adrian was there. He told me, chill out, go sit on the bank and eat a Pop-Tart. And then somebody else came in to weigh in, or awards, didn't know how to use Tourney X. He'll be watching this. What's up, Nick? Didn't know how to use Tourney X, and so I had to submit his fish for him, and he beat me by 3/4 of an inch. He almost broke 100 inches that day, and he would have if he knew how to submit them, and I wasn't busy with everything else. Like I was also hosting the tournament, and yeah, he would have broke 100 inches. He caught 100 inches worth of bass and just didn't get the pictures just right and everything. It was yeah. After that, I get mad when people tell me congrats too early, but I'm glad it worked out for you.
I had some people message me throughout the day, just saying, keep on it, keep doing your thing. My fiance, she was at work, and it was kind of later in the day. She's like, you're doing great. And I just never messaged anybody because it was like, I can't do this. You guys, I know they're being supportive, but like, I can't get in this mind space. And, I have a bad habit of pulling out my phone, looking at Tourney X. And that was something I really worked on this Saturday was, I knew I was catching them. The same deal. I didn't want to get my hopes up. And so, like, I think the first time I pulled up Tourney X, I don't know what time it was, but I was leading by a good bit. And I was just surprised, like, okay, because then it's like, well, if I'm catching them, somebody else is catching them. And so it was one of those days where I was like really working on, okay, let's minimize how many times we're looking at Tourney X and just go fish, do your thing. Don't worry about anybody else and do what I do. And that's just what I did.
That's awesome. You've mentioned those 17 inchers several times here. I went and counted them all. There was 16 fish over 17 inches or 17 inches or above that were caught, including the great big one that Adam caught. 25, you had 4 of those. So 25% of the 17 plus inchers that were caught were all in your bag. Which was pretty amazing, having 21 people and you caught a quarter of the higher quality fish caught. Is there anything that you wish that you would have done differently? I don't know, dealing with the weather, or maybe not losing that rod or whatever.
Well, I mean, like I said, I got the rod back. And actually, the rod I could care less about. It was the reel I wanted back. The reel wasn't even a week old. And so that's what I wanted back more than anything. And no, I don't think I would have done anything differently. And I did things that I don't normally do. And I think that's what helped me I took what I did, what happened at the start of the day, catching those first couple. I took that and applied it throughout the rest of the day. And that's what helped me was, okay, because a lot of times what I'll do is, I'll catch one, might make a couple more casts there. And it's like, oh, we're done here. I'll just cover a lot of water, and I don't really find an area where they're staged at, you know what I mean? And so that was something I really worked on Saturday, and it paid off great for me. And it's something I can now take with me later down the road. But the wind, I mean, it probably wasn't as bad as where Joe was at, but having that spot lock on the autopilot, I never lost my spot. My trolling motor stayed on the entire time, and I could stand up and fish and never have to worry about getting off my spot or anything like that. And it was great. It was great for me. And there was times the wind picked up, and and I noticed around that time when it really got bad, that's when the bite kind of died off. But then when it's let up a little bit, it seemed to go back to what it was at the morning.
If you had to pick one factor in preparedness or map study, practice, history on the lake, whatever, that led to this kind of success, can you point out what that might be? If you have one thing in particular,
like what factor led up to my decision making on Saturday? That was your
map study or whatever.
It would have been the wind direction, because, like I said, that Sunday before the tournament, the wind was coming out of, I think, the northeast, but we had a northwest wind on Saturday. But that northwest wind made the bite a lot better for me. So, like just going off that northeast wind that I practiced in, I had success in it. So it's like, well, I'll go off of this. I'm getting the kind of the same wind direction, find that wind blown point or bank, and that's what worked for me. So definitely the wind direction was the factor for me.
And I got a question about not just this event, but were you doing some kind of tournaments before you started doing the kayak tournaments, or is this your first kind of run at tournament fishing?
This is my first run at tournament fishing, and like when you were just talking about the Jackson County tournaments, those were my first tournaments that I did. And my fiance, she used to live over there in Olathe, and so the drive was actually closer from her house than it is for where I live now. And so that's the only reason why I did those tournaments. And, I wanted to start out small and, get your foot in the door type deal. And I followed MOYAK for some years now. And this is, I was coming into my third full year doing tournaments.
Yeah, I was looking, and I know you did pretty well in MOYAK last year, and you're starting off strong this year. I was wondering if you had a tip for anybody that is new to it that would like to kind of fast track their learning curve like you seem to have.
So kind of funny story is when I was little, I loved fishing. Was out there all the time with dad and grandpa, and grandparents got a 2-acre pond that used to be loaded with fish before it dried out. And then, it got into that teenage year and just, man, fishing sucks. This is boring. Like, why you guys do this? And then, well, it was senior year of high school. I got bored, like so bored out of my mind. It's like, I'm going to go fish. Mom looked at me. She's like, what are you doing? I said, well, I'm going fishing. He's like, what? So since then, I've never looked back. Like, it's just been just an uphill from here. Just, I want to go. So really, what's the word I'm looking for? You can't stop. If this is something you want to do, no matter whatever it is you want to do, you can't stop. If you want to be the best, you got to play against the best. If that means I got to get my teeth kicked in year after year, then so be it. But this is the MOYAK guys are good for that, and having this group has definitely helped me learn a lot. So don't be afraid to listen to these guys talk, and it may be over your head, but there's going to come a time and point where you remember that conversation from somebody or a video you watched or an article you read, and you're out there on the water like, oh, well, this would be a perfect time for this scenario. Or you get off the water and you kind of look, you reflect back on your day. You remember the conversation that you had, and you can apply it to the next time you go out. So I would say, don't be afraid to stop learning, and don't stop.
That's awesome, man. Thank you. That's a pretty good tip, I think. I kind of noticed that last year as far as the don't stop. Just I never let myself get out of the tournament mindset, even whenever I was fun fishing, and I think it helped a lot throughout the whole season last year. So, although Joe's got a little bit different story.
Yeah, I say I wouldn't say I disagree by any means, but yeah, I mean, sometimes you just gotta, if it starts leaning on you too hard, just back off a little bit. Make sure it's fun.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, I love tournament fishing, but if you start losing a little bit of fun, make sure you go find that fun again.
Yeah, you definitely don't want to get burnt out. So I will add on to that. You definitely don't want to do that. And, especially if you're doing the tournaments, this game's a mental game. We all know that. So, and like, that's a huge problem that I face is, growing up, I wanted to be the perfectionist. So like coming into this game, like you can't do that. You can't control the game. You might have a little bit of control of it, but at the same time, like you're playing against Mother Nature, and she's the ultimate winner at all times. So, you also got to remember that too. You can't get burnt out, and you gotta, like Adam said, you gotta stay positive. And that's something else that I worked on this past Saturday too. It's like, I had 3.5 hours sleep, but like, let's go out here, let's go fish. And then I lose a rod. And that was like, man, I'm ready to go home. But, 10 minutes later, like my mood changed, and obviously I caught a fish, that obviously helps. But yeah, I mean, that's just something everybody works on, whether we see it or not.
%100% there on every part of that. I wanted to touch on the sorry, I've lost my train of thought there. I wanted to touch on the burnout thing. Adam fishes more events than anybody that I know just about. Is there anything that you do to combat that burnout, or you just don't get burned out?
Yeah, I've gotten this will be year 4 for me. I've gotten burnt out pretty much every year. I get burnt out about the same point. It's like I go on those monthlies really hard, and you're going up against those MOYAK hammers, and like I'm good at putting 100 inches up, but it takes more like 105, 107. So there's a lot of mental beatdown that goes on throughout the year, whether you're just fishing the real tournaments or those onlines and stuff. And the first 2 years, I just kind of took a break and kind of had to step back. And then all for that, all it takes me is about a week or two, and then all of a sudden I feel like I haven't fished in a year. Last year I did the river series, and that was my thing. That was awesome last year. By the time it just kind of felt like the entire year things just kept changing, because I'd be over there in Mozingo, and then you'd come do one of these regular lakes, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, we're gonna go walk around on a river now. I ain't hardly ever done that before. I did my first ever river drag. I didn't even know how to fish the river. I'm sorry. Yeah, at the end of my second year, I did a little bit of river events. I did one. I wasn't even doing them right. Last year, I went with my buddy Christian, and he taught me how to do it the right way. I felt so dumb. I would go on the river in my kayak and be like, well, I'm stuck here, And the first time I realized, just get out of your kayak and just, I don't go fishing with water shoes. I wear mesh tennis shoes every time I go fishing. So I don't have boots or water shoes. And once I realized, oh, you just get out of your kayak and you just drag that thing around and get back in it and you're fishing again. I was like, man, this is the coolest thing I've ever done. So yeah, that rejuvenated me a little bit. I'd taken a trip or two to Thomas Hill, and I think you know about that now. Catching some striper, trying to chase smallmouth, just trying to change up what you're doing. It usually keeps it fun for me. And that way you're still fishing and you still learn stuff about fishing too. And so that's also cool. One thing I was going to say though is I learned a really, really big lesson my first year on not ever assuming you win a tournament, because I led that first big bass bash from pretty much lines in to dark, and in dark, the last half hour or so, I lost a big one, and another guy caught two back to back, and all of a sudden I was in second place, and that was a really hard day and moment to get through. Thinking you won 15 grand for an entire day, and then I could hardly stand up inside of the venue, and then to find out that I got second, I almost passed out. So yeah, I've learned a lot of hard lessons in 3 years. So maybe when some good things happen, I always just believe good karma's gonna come. And now when bad things happen, when I went down in Florida and struck out, I just kept telling myself when I drive home, I think some good things are gonna happen, man. Like, you didn't deserve that. You didn't deserve. I didn't think I needed to go down there and win, but I didn't think I was going to go down there for 5 days and strike out and have a miserable time and stuff. And I kept telling myself, man, I have a feeling something good's going to happen here. And since then, I've had I struck out at Bull Shoals, and then the next two events I've had the big bass. So just going to stay positive and hope that things, if you get screwed over, just stay positive, and I have a feeling things will bounce back your way in the end of the day.
That's awesome. Yeah, thank you for that. I do have some questions for everybody. Adrian, do you have any specific questions about their days before we?
Yeah, Rylan, you said you went through a couple different spots, and obviously you caught them. It sounds like you caught them at all those spots, but was there anything in particular at the spot you caught the quality at that made it better? Was it like wind, bait, or structure that made that spot produce on a higher level, or maybe it was just luck?
Well, one of the spots I actually didn't have any luck. I got out there it was the day I went out fishing on Saturday, and new area of the lake. Never been there, so I said, well, I'm gonna go check this place out. And we get there. It has potential, like be an area that I would definitely like to fish later on. But with it being low right now, it just wasn't really playing, or wasn't really fishing like how I wanted to fish. So it's like this. So I never caught anything out of there. And then, I met one of the new MOYAKers there, Ethan, and we exchanged numbers, and I got off the water early, and it was mid-afternoon. He's like, yeah, I caught 10 or so over here. And so I was like, oh, okay, well, the bite must have turned on in the afternoon. But then that next day I went to the area that I had success on in practice. And like I said, it was more so the wind that was the factor for me. and running a crankbait on the same wind-blown bank. That's really about it. There wasn't anything like too precise to say. It was the wind helped out a lot, and if it wasn't as windy as it was Saturday, I don't think that bite would have been as good for me. Because that Sunday before, it was maybe 10, 12 mile an hour. Wasn't well, actually it was pretty windy, but it died off pretty quick. But Saturday, it was blowing all day, and if it wasn't like that, I don't think the bite would have been near as good as what I caught.
Anything else, Adrian?
That wind direction definitely helps, because I didn't even think about it when you said, do you have any regrets, until Rylan was talking. But I knew that it was going to be a windy day, because I knew the feels like was way under what the temperature was going to be. And I knew it was going to be windy, so I prepared for wind, but didn't look at the direction. And I fished 2 spots of the lake, and both spots my wind was blowing straight out. And I kind of told the guy at the second spot, he had 2 for the day scoping, and I was like, man, when you got a wind like that, I mean, it didn't touch anything. It was just, that was a straight up and down wind, and it was straight out of there. So you really got to do your homework on wind sometimes, because it can be the deal sometimes.
100%. Speaking of the deal, I'm wondering what you guys will think the deal will be at the Elite Series opener. Who do you think's going to win if you had to place bets? I know we've got a couple of favorites right here, but if you guys have somebody else in mind that you think's going to go and kill it.
I'll start off real quick. I think it can be anybody's game, honestly. We've got some weather coming in, like we had. I don't know what you guys had last night, but we had this huge storm front come in last night. A lot of rain. So, I'm sure that cooled down the water a little bit. And then coming in Sunday night, Monday morning, and Monday night, like we're back down to low 20s at night. So that might, affect them a little bit. But then you're looking at next week leading up to the tournament, we're getting 60s, 80s, and then, fingers crossed we have a good tournament day, weather-wise. So it could, around this time of the year, they're thinking about moving up and making their beds, doing all, they're doing their spawn and stuff. So if it stays like it's showing right now, knock on wood, but I think it can be anybody's game. I really do. It's somebody's going to find him, and I think multiple people are going to find him, and it'll come down to the last 2 minutes, and somebody's going to pull one out, and it's game changer. I really think that's what's going to happen. Is it's going to be. And if you remember last year, we had the day before or 2 days before the tournament, we had that fire spread, get super windy, and somebody would burn or something. The fire spread, and that happened. It was snowing that week, and then the next day, that Sunday after the tournament, we got more snow. So I think the weather would be better than what it was last year. And I mean, people still had a good bite last year. Like I did as well, placing 6 out of 81. But I think it'd be anybody's game.
Yeah, I think you have a lot of the usual suspects probably up top, but like I said, it's the Ozarks, man. I don't care where you're at. You're confident generally out there. This place just puts up big numbers. I mean, I think it only took 85 last year to win it, which seems low for the Ozarks. But again, we're usually hitting it pretty early, so I think that number will be higher. Obviously, with the weather kind of leading up to it, but yeah, I think we'll have a good mix of some pretty good bags out there.
Yeah, I also think that it's going to be with the early high temperatures. It's probably going to be one of those events. I think 93 won it either last spring or the spring before. I would definitely think it will be a deal where not a lot of guys will find it, but someone's going to find low to mid 90s. And the water, there's a good chance. I haven't found it in many places yet, but the water gets in that magical 50-degree range, and a lot of those really good baits, power baits and stuff, not even just power baits, but even some sneaky finesse baits start to really shine. So they definitely, yeah. Personally, I hope that it's just a big spinner bait festival to give myself a chance, but we'll see how it goes.
That's awesome. Joe, you kind of touched on it. Total inches that you guys think it'll take to win. You guys all thinking kind of like high 80s, low 90s?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think 95. Well, we didn't have a single event last year in the 90s. It was a down year, but I do think that someone's going to get in the 92, 93 range. But, with our MOYAK events, it'll look good the whole time, and then we'll get up to Saturday, and it'll be a cold front or like a lightning storm, and all of a sudden the fish are all just won't bite anything but a weightless plastic or something. I feel like I've been in that situation so many times.
Definitely going to take high 80s. I think it definitely take high 80s.
I agree. If you guys had to pick a favorite to win the Angler of the Year in the Elite Series, I know all of us but Joe fished, or no, excuse me, all of us but Adrian and Joe both, we all fished almost all the events last year. But it sounds like Joe was paying attention. I know Adrian was. Do you guys have a favorite for who to win that? I know it's hard to bet against Chad.
Yeah.
But I always think Jared has a really good shot, and I think if I was a betting man, my money would go on Micah. I've said that before, but do you guys have a favorite to win?
I think if
I
Lance
don't. Pretty much all those guys.
Sorry. No, you're good. No, I just think if Burris is out there and he fishes them all, I know he has bigger fish to fry a lot of times, but that he's hard to beat anywhere.
Yeah, we kind of get saved by Bassmaster on that one.
Right?
What were you saying, Adam?
Yeah, I don't have a guy either, but yeah, there's so many. I mean, there's at least 10 names probably, and like you said, Chad's won so many times that you're almost a little bit foolish to not say that he's like the favorites. I personally, I feel like if you're just playing the odds, I feel like I have a lot. I want one of those belts really bad, and I'm looking forward to seeing what me and my buddy Blake can do this year. I think just on odds alone, we got a better shot at getting the belts and team than I do solo. But yeah, looking forward to seeing how it goes.
I was going to ask you that as well. If you and Blake were going to be on a team together again, so
yeah, we are. I mean, I was real happy when he said, yeah, it's teams are kind of weird. It's just like a side deal, but it does make for me. And I know Joe has done it. I don't know if Rylan has. I only did it the last 2 years, and when you're having a bad day and you only have to focus on getting 3, and it kind of just picks you up, like rather than getting down on yourself, it's like, all right, man, come on, we're fishing. I'm fishing for Noah out here. I'm fishing for Blake out here. Let's get 3, and then let's cry after that, or complain about everything after that. But let's get my 3 for my teammate. I'm always hoping that they're tearing it up. You can let yourself down, but don't let your teammate down out here. Now, come on, so, helps pick you up.
That's awesome.
It's easier to get 3 than it is 5.
Rylan, are you doing the team series, and do you have a favorite to win?
I am doing the team series. Yeah, Jeff Craven and I have partnered up this year, and we're going to see how that goes and give it a shot. Pick a favorite, man. I don't even know. Like, if I gotta say somebody, I'm gonna go Jared. He was so close last year, and him and Chad are good buddies, but we're all trying to win at the same time. So I think Jared's gonna put his head down and he's gonna make a run. And once that happens, I feel like it's gonna be hard to stop. So that's
I agree.
I don't think I've met anyone that said a bad thing about Jared. So that's what's so cool. Some of these guys are good, and they're so nice. I mean, he wins the big bass and then tells you exactly how he caught it on the awards, and then I go the next KMO event and take 3rd on pretty much the same day.
Yeah, he's one of the great guys. I mean, I'm in Everhart's just about once a week, and I'm in there and I'm talking to him, and he's, we're just shooting the shit with each other. But he's always giving the advice, and you even on days like we've had tournaments together, like we fished against each other, and he's like, here, they're doing this, and he'll give me some of his baits, and it doesn't work out for me. You can't be on somebody else's bite. Maybe you can, but for me, I just noticed it doesn't work that way, and I just go back to doing what I'm doing and have better luck that way. But just to sit back and watch somebody and you learn from him, and he's been one of my mentors. So it's he's one of the good guys.
Yeah, I don't know if there's anybody else that'll whoop you all over a lake and then tell you exactly how he's doing it while he's doing it and give you everything that he's got and still whoop you the whole time. So,
and he'll tell you, it's the confidence in the baits, and he said it at the All-American. He was on a podcast, and he showed the baits on the podcast, and that's what he throws. It's the same color. He doesn't change. We all got our sneaky stuff, so like I'm not gonna take that from him, but he does. Like, he's giving me some of the baits on the water, and what do you know? It is green pumpkin with some blue flakes or some kind of flake in it. That's what it is. So it's, he'll tell you, it's that confidence that he has in whatever bait it is.
100%. My last question that I've got here for you guys is, I want to know what all you guys are planning on fishing this year. Adam, I think you're probably going to do some onlines, Elite Series, KMO, everything that you can get in like you did last year.
Yeah. I think that's probably the only Bassmaster event I'll do this year. I would have really liked to go to the second one at Caddo Lake. I really think I could have done really well on that. That's just fishing cypress trees is probably my favorite thing to do. It used to be my two biggest bass, but now my first and my third biggest bass have come off cypress trees in the spring on chatterbaits. And when I saw that event, I wanted to go there more than any of them on the schedule, but the Florida one was the one that kind of was going to work out for me. So we go to Wapapolo on KMO that day, and I think that's probably one of my favorite lakes that I've been to. And not all the clubs go there. No one went there last year, and a lot of people don't like it, but it's just another one like Lake of the Ozarks. I've gone there. I've gone there like 4 times and caught 3 big ones. So looking forward to going there. I'm going to fish the onlines. I'm just going to do the MOYAK online since it looks like this is probably going to be the last year of those. Numbers are low, and for this one, they didn't get any higher. And Josh said that if it's not, they don't go up, this will be the last year. So I'll probably ride that into the sunset. I've never won a month, even though guys had some good ones. I'll give that a good try. I'll be doing both Elite Series, Team Series for MOYAK, River Series for MOYAK, and the All-American. Yeah, that's it. But yeah, can't wait.
Awesome. What about you, Joe?
Yeah, I'm focusing mostly on the Team Series this year, but I'm obviously going to probably try to come out swinging strong with the Elite Series. If it keeps going well, I'll ride that out. We always look at one big trip a year, but we haven't done much for that lately. So we'll see. Like I said, as of right now, that's just what it is.
Good deal. And how about you, Rylan?
It's just going to be MOYAK for me this year, and the Team Series. If I get time, I may hop into some of the Western Missouri, Dane and Adrian. We'll see if I got time for those. I'll have to sit out the Mark Twain event. I've got a wedding for that one. And then, that's what I'm doing this year, and getting married in June. So I'm going to take a step back a little bit, get that taken care of. And after that, I'm going to hit it hard again.
Well, congrats on the engagement there. And that sounds like a pretty good season for all you guys. You mentioned you're with Jeff Craven for the Team Series, and I just wanted to say, we were talking about cool guys. There ain't nobody cooler than that guy on the water. He's the happiest guy to ever float in a boat. So
on and off the water, man. You might have a bad day, and he'll be the first one to come and pat you on the back, and he's like, look at the positive of something that happened. And he's going to be a good teammate to have, and I'm looking forward to it.
Absolutely. Me and him, I'm saying too much already, but me and him often fish similar areas at Table Rock,
Yeah.
and he's always there to cheer me up whenever I'm having a bad day at Table Rock. So
Yeah, he
But-
told me one of the stories. I don't know when it was, but I think it's before. I think you were paddling this time, and I think you won on Table Rock or something like that. And he gave you some tips, and he's just like, "Where did this kid come from?" So he's one of the guys that gives you the first advice too. He's one of the first person to give you advice, and always a helping hand no matter what.
absolutely, he's awesome. I've really enjoyed getting to know him over the last year. Anybody else have anything? That's all that I've got for you guys.
I ran into him on Table Rock a handful of times too. We did a 2-day tournament in the same area that you're probably talking about. And the first day he was on this side and I was on this side when we passed each other. And then the second day we didn't even see each other. And after words, where were you at, man? I was in the same spot. Where were you at, man? Yeah. He's definitely awesome.
100%. Anything else?
Nope.
No, sir.
Alrighty. Well, thank you everybody for hopping on here and talking to us. Congrats on your days, all three of you. Awesome. Hopefully you guys can keep it rolling and be excited to talk to you guys again. And thank you everybody at home for sticking around and watching.